In alhamdulillah, wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. As you all know, Ramadan is around the corner. And how do we prepare ourselves for Ramadan? The way that we prepare ourselves for Ramadan is by not over fasting. In fact, you shouldn't be doing any fasting after the 15th day anyway. But the way we prepare is prepare ourselves spiritually by setting goals for ourselves during that most sacred month, on how to get closer to Allah, what sins that you're doing that you need to stop, how to implement moderation in your life. That's what Ramadan is about. Moderation in what you eat, what you drink, your emotions, your desires, and all of that. So this is what Dr. McBride, inshallah, is going to be covering today, how the human brain can be manipulated by yourself, to help you to set goals for yourself. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. McBride, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I appreciate your patience. You know that I can carry on a conversation. So when the prayer comes in for Maghrib on Thursdays, I better pray it right away because I might talk us right through. And then where's the benefits in that, right? As the sister was saying, today we're going to talk about the brain center that is actually, I would say, in charge of our fasting, or one of the most important areas of the brain that helps us with our fasting, with all of our control. What we're going to talk about today is the HYPO thalamus, THALAMS. You can write that down if you want to and look it up. It's responsible for maintaining the body's homeostasis. Really cool idea. Homeostasis means the whole idea behind homeostasis is our body maintaining balance in everything, literally balance in temperature. The hypothalamus is very involved with measuring how warm or cold we are. If we're too hot, we then sweat. If we get too cold, then it tells the brain and the muscles, that part, it sends that message throughout the brain, and it tells us to shiver. That's what shivering increases: the muscular activity, increases blood flow, increases activity, increases body temperature. So the hypothalamus is in charge of that. And what's really cool is that means when we talk about homeostasis, it's not just body function, but it's also mental function. That's why it's Ramadan talks about one of the benefits in the Quran is it teaches us patience. And imagine there's nothing more concerning for the brain and the body than thinking you're starving, thinking you're hungry. Hungry implies starving. One of the things we used before supermarkets, we used to have to worry about food collection. What was in season, what wasn't. Hunter-gatherers had to hunt out meat all the time. The gathering, they had to know where the fruits were. They had to know all that stuff. That's why we were so nomadic for so long until we developed agriculture. It's starvation, and surviving starvation is everything, literally, and thirst also. It registers thirst, it registers dehydration. The problem is, as human beings, is we can train some of this out. We can train out, for example, thirsty. Some of the sisters, more than the brothers, may be aware of worrying about going to the bathroom all the time, right? And what happens is a lot of women, believe it or not, in the practice, we'll talk about dehydration. And what happens is literally you're causing so much harm in your body by not keeping the proper fluid content that now not only are you not going to the bathroom, you're denying your thirst, you're dehydrating your brain, your body, you're wrecking your kidneys, so that the minute you do start drinking again, your body hoards the water, and that's when you blow. If you maintained a proper hydration, all of us, men and women, then we wouldn't retain water. We wouldn't have to worry about bloating because your body's not having to hoard it. It's not afraid of dying of thirst, dehydrating. And if you train and create, remember when we talked about the basal ganglia, if you train and create responding to your hunger signals, they won't come on all the time. If you create habits, your brain becomes familiar with how often the food comes in, all of this stuff. And your hypothalamus is important to all of that. I really like for all of us to remember, though, is the hypothalamus is also regulating with the patients. It's really important for the emotions. Can everyone see me? I just touched my computer and I think I left you. There.
Yes, we can
You
see.
can see me? Everyone, I'm seen and heard again?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, sorry about that. I won't touch the screen again. But the idea is that what's really cool is it also involves with the sleep-wake cycle, melatonin, cortisol. But again, the thing about patience is think about what takes place here. Imagine, like we talk about Ramadan, and in the big, when we talked about goal setting and goal achieving, one of the big lifetime picture ideas that I like to talk about is achieving heaven, right? And Ramadan was one of those. One of the hugely important things is patience, controlling your emotions, controlling your anger. Because things can happen. Some people even get mad at Allah. Oh, why me? Oh, why this? Oh, and if they let their emotions take over, they can even criticize and blame Allah for stuff, which is totally unjust. And even with our family members, think about it. If you had a horrible day at the office, and I have 4 children, and when they were younger, hopefully they were always excited to see me come home. Imagine I have a horrible day at the office. It has nothing to do with my family. And the kids hear me coming in. They hear the door open. They come running to the door, yelling and screaming. And then I have a horrible day. Maybe you have a headache as a parent. You show up and you get mad at your kids. You say it's because they're yelling and screaming, but the idea is they don't know. You are actually training them that you are angry at them expressing love for you. Think about that. It's hugely important. So with Ramadan, think about what we're doing and goal setting and goal achieving and literally everything with like I said, with Jannah. If you can learn patience, if you can learn to control your emotions, and like I said, what's really cool about the hypothalamus is it's not just physical control. It's also hugely important to emotional control. Imagine if you, the same organ, literally, right? If you Google it up or search it up, whatever the search engines are, if you search it up, that same organ controls appetite. That same organ also controls emotions. That same organ controls sleep-wake cycle. That same organ controls thirst, controls body temperature. That's organ, the hypothalamus is in charge of homeostasis, maintaining normal, comfortable, safe, a living environment. So like I said, when you're setting goals, imagine what takes place here the whole month of Ramadan. And I'll leave the hypothalamus for a second, and then we'll come back to it. Imagine the whole month. I know exactly what time I'm going to get up. When it comes day to day, I will know minute by minute by minute exactly when I have to stop eating, right? So I'll get up, I'll start my eating, I'll know exactly when to stop. I will know hour by hour, and then pretend Ramadan, pretend Fajr comes in at an easy number would be maybe 6:10. I'll look, but pretend it's 6:10. So I know just to be safe on my clock, I usually stop at about 6:05. I usually stop 5 minutes beforehand. And so I know I'm going to get up at a certain time. I know I'm going to eat. I know I'm going to drink. I've even planned everything I'm going to eat in the morning, haven't I? So then by the time I get to 6:05, I'm finishing, I'm cleaning, I'm preparing for my salah. I'm going to pray my salah. And then at that time, it's during Ramadan, I will probably, inshallah, I'll be reading more Quran. I'll be reading more Islamic literature. There are a couple things I think really cool. I've got the 99 names in Arabic and English and their meanings. So I'm going to try to learn a few names. I'm already making my plans. So think about how that works. You got a whole month to train habits in. And Ramadan motivates us even more because if you intentionally avoid it and you just don't consider it important, this is one of the fards that we have to do. So you've got a whole month of training in your meals. You're going to train in your drinking, your hydration, I mean. You're going to train in Salah. You're going to train in Dhikr. Everything, the gates, the shaitan are changed and the gates of heaven, everything is open. Everything is open. So now if the shayateen are gone, this is your opportunity to overcome everything, because the only thing that's left, my aunt's in town, my mother's sister, and the three of us spent literally 2 hours talking about brain function today. As boring as I am with that, right? The idea is we spent 2 hours talking about brain function with the idea that one of the biggest points that we should all understand is the outside influences on us are less strong than our inside influences. And the reason our inside influences are so strong is that they could be, if we go back to the goal setting talk and goal achieving talk we did, when I mentioned biases, you have been in your environment your whole life. And a lot of us continue from childhood, teen years, early adult, into adulthood. We even carry on the behavior. Some people blame their parents for everything, right? And then they grow up to act just like their parents. We were talking about an example today where parents, you see kids misbehaving, yelling, screaming. You'll be in a doctor's office. You'll be out in the supermarket, yelling, screaming, yelling, screaming, yelling, screaming. And you know, eventually the mother freaks out. She starts yelling, screaming. And that's when the kids stop misbehaving. The mother and father have trained into their kids. They can misbehave until the kids hear a certain decibel in the parent's voice, right? So they trained it in. So the same thing, training our kids. We are adults. And my aunt, my mother, and I were talking about, I said, the worst thing we have is ourselves, and we've got to overcome our training. Ramadan is a great time for that. You literally, now you know you're going to get up. Every day, make the intention to get up. Every day, make the intention to get up at that certain time every single day. One of the things I talk to my patients about, if you want to reschedule your day and you want to get up earlier, the question is, and I'll ask you all, what's the first thing you should do if you're wanting to get up early? And they usually say, well, we've got to get up earlier. And I say, no, the night before, the first thing you do is you set your alarm clock, because you got to train in getting up, right? But if I set, what I did for a couple months when I rescheduled my day was I set the alarm clock half an hour or an hour earlier, depending on what day it was, earlier. So every day the alarm clock went off. Every night I set it. That's all I did. My goal was to set my alarm clock early every day. So that's what time it was set for. It went off the next day. Now, did I get up every day? At first I didn't. It still became, I'm going to get up just in time to get my prayer, right? And then I'm going to rush and get ready and leave. But eventually it was trained in because it was every day. So now it became, I wake up approximately 10 minutes before the alarm goes off every day because it's trained in. Now I'm getting up every day. And what happened was I started going to bed earlier also because I knew, because I trained in the fatigue, right? Because now I'm getting up earlier. So now I know I better go to bed earlier because I'm waking up 10 minutes before that alarm clock goes off. And you've got a whole month to do that. Then we talk about the food. There's only so much food you can eat for breakfast. Or in my case, there's only so much food I can eat for breakfast. I make sure I've got I make sure I've got a fruit. I take my supplements and I make sure I've got a protein. And then I also use powder from a company, a reputable company that I really like, and I looked into, and I make sure I get all of my proper nutrition. So now Ramadan, because you don't want to eat just junk food, right? That'll make you even more unhealthy. So now I make sure everything I take in with breakfast is nutritious. I know I'm not going to have lunch. I'm not going to eat again. Right now, it's what, 6? I think Maghrib comes in at just after what we did today. It comes in just after 6 o'clock. So I know I'm not eating until after 6. So I rather than have my bar at lunch, I have my bar as soon as Ramadan. Excuse me, because I fast on Mondays. As soon as the fast ends, I break my fast. Well, that's what you're going to do during Ramadan too, isn't it? So you're literally plotting out your day. And now for those of you who were eating lunch, now you can say you just want to read more Quran. You've got an hour lunch break to read Quran. And like me, many of you have a little extra weight. I'm sure we do. None of us will starve any one day. You could literally, why not just go out for a 5-minute walk one day? By the end of Ramadan, work it up to a 15 or 20-minute walk. If it's too cold or too wet, stand up for 5 or 10 minutes instead of sitting there all day. So now you've got these blocks of time where you know breakfast ends, you know where dinner starts, you probably plan your breakfast meal, you also plan your evening meal, and then I plan my fluid intake. I plan everything, right, during Ramadan. And then if you live close to a masjid, you should plan on, if they break fast there, go as often as you can, make tarawih as often as you can. You know you're going to probably pray extra, inshallah. All of this, believe it or not, within the idea, now let's go back to the brain. Now we've trained in the basal ganglia, is that you can look at a brain map, a brain picture of the inside. Where's the basal ganglia? Where's that in relation to the hypothalamus? Where's that in relation to the thalamus? Where's that in relation to your memory centers and your emotional centers? They're all right there in the middle, what we call mid-temporal lobe, all right there around and involved with the limbic system, the emotional system. So think about what Allah has blessed us with in terms of Ramadan. You literally have an opportunity to train in. And again, remember what the hypothalamus by itself does. It's all homeostasis. So it touches base with physical, it touches base with emotional, your senses, all of them, your vision. I mean, everything to keep you smooth and alive. It is your regulation, your homeostasis, your body, emotional, temperature, hunger, thermometer. It's literally your body, one of the most important brain centers for body regulation, both physical and emotional. And then we get a whole month of planning our meals every day, planning when we're going to eat, planning when we're not going to eat, planning what we're going to do with that extra half hour or hour that you used to spend literally during the middle of the day. Don't waste it. Do something that's going to get you into heaven or the goal achieving. Allah blessed you with a skill. Improve your knowledge base in whatever your profession is. I do a lot of writing and typing right now. We're trying to finish up 2 different projects, my team and I, or well, what I call my team, my kids, my computer guy, and another person, to get these books out in another project we're working on right now. That's what I do during lunch, because I typically don't eat lunch because I tried to train it out. So it's really important. Like I said, I would recommend looking up the hypothalamus and just type in the question, what is the function of the hypothalamus? Because I'm a big fan of, if you know more about your physical potential abilities and what you've all been blessed with, what we've all been blessed with, the more I learn about the brain and the more I talk to you guys about it, the more I learn about religion and the more I talk to you guys about it, the more I implement this stuff into my own life. I mean, I'm literally, my first profession was teaching. I taught for almost 10 years. And it was health and phys ed. I graduated from college as a phys ed teacher. Then that was a good time, climbing around and most of my experience was kindergarten to 8th grade. So hopefully I was the best athlete on the field all the time. But that's what I did originally. So I love teaching, and I also am teaching myself. So literally, I would advise you to pick up more religious knowledge, more knowledge about your profession so that you can excel and be better at the blessings, the skill that Allah has blessed you with. And it's really important, as we read in the Quran, chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 183 and 185 are, let me grab those and read this to you in religious context. Chapter 2, 183. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may become al-muttaqun. I don't say that really well, but the pious, right? Demonstrating your belief, following the rules, the pious. And there's so many other subtleties with the word piety. And then we jump down to verse 185, because 184 describes boundaries and for a fixed number of days. But if any of you is ill or on a journey, it gives us allowances. So because Allah tells us all the time, He did not prescribe our religion for hardship and to give us hardship. He prescribed it to make our life easy. And I'm a firm believer in that. That's one of the things that impressed me the most, because if I know the rules, then I know what's right and wrong. And that makes everything easy for me. But if I jump down to verse 185, the month of Ramadan, in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance, a reminder that it guides every minute of every day for mankind, meaning everyone. It doesn't say just believers. A guidance for mankind and clear proofs for the guidance and the criterion between right and wrong. So what do? Strengthening the frontal lobe, right and wrong, inhibition, initiation. So whoever of you cites the crescent of the first night of the month of Ramadan, he must fast that month. And whoever is ill or on a journey, the same number of days should be made up from other days. Allah intends for you ease, and He does not want to make things difficult for you. He wants that you must complete the same number of days and that you must magnify Allah for having guided. You must magnify Allah for having guided you so that you may be grateful to Him. And another thing, I really love the word grateful, because so much research, I tend to be a little more factual when it comes to that. Even though I'm right-brained, every now and then I like the research supports the need for more emotion and more gratitude. Believe it or not, the more gratitude you feel, the more thankful you are, the more happy. It's clearly tied to happiness with life. So it's really cool that when you read the Quran, like I said, science should agree with religion, and religion should be able to be proved in science. And everything in our Quran has been supported and proven so far. It's really cool. The science matches. And that's why I'm saying, with the patience, the piety, remembering that there's something greater. There's no way we created this brain. There's no way we set these rules and this guidance by ourselves. This is not man-made stuff. Atheists are you can't be any more wrong than to be totally disbelieving, right? You can have an incorrect belief, but to be in total disbelief just amazes me, because there's no way we could be the greatest creation out there. We're back to the hypothalamus, because I'm wandering again. The idea is the hypothalamus is sleep-wake, also hugely important hormone release, and like I mentioned, the mood already. And it's really important, like I said, with patience and working through the anger and controlling your anger, because there's nothing that gets us. You'll see, for example, if we take current events right now, you'll see that the two biggest emotions that one side made a big deal about in America and most around the world, there's no way you can get this many, what I would think were rational people, to act irrationally, right? Because we knew he was a failure the first time, and he still got reelected. The idea is that if you can create fear, if you can create anger, if you can create these emotions that override, because if you're fearful, you'll make some horrible decisions to protect yourself, anything to save your life, right? It's if I give you the exaggeration, if you're that fearful about something, fear, like here it's fear about immigrants, which translates over into fear of brown people. I think we should be more afraid of white Christian nationalism and KKKism and all that stuff that really rears its ugly head right away, right? So they create this fear. So now you think you have to protect yourself, and you migrate towards those who are projecting that they will protect, as compared to the other side, which said, no, we should go about being positive. We should do positive encouragement. Doesn't motivate as much as fear does. And also, one of the things fear can progress into is being angry. So if I can make you afraid of something in particular, like, oh my gosh, you da, and often and all day, every day, and finally you generate fear about that. If you can't do anything about it to protect yourself, what you may gravitate toward is anger towards what you're afraid of, because you're blaming that for your fear rather than the person that created the fear mongering in the first place. And that's why, like right now, Ramadan, all these subtleties, Ramadan is huge, because if we keep it simple, the same area of your brain that will influence appetite and thirst also influences, if you can control appetite and thirst, you strengthen the hypothalamus to control emotions. And if you can control your emotions, you allow your frontal lobes and prefrontal cortex, and particularly dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, you allow those to strengthen at the same time, so that now you're a better thinker and you're just a better human being. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I jumped around a little bit, but that hypothalamus is so important to everything. If you can train it in every year, Allah blessed us with training on how to achieve what is really a short-term goal, a daily and monthly goal, right? You spend a whole month training in goal achieving. And then every day that you're successful, you earn blessings, but it also helps you train things. So at the end of 1 month, what do they say? 21 days or 30 days, depending on whose research you read, on how to train in a new habit. So if you literally ask Allah to bless you with training in all these good habits and make it more and more and more and more and more good habits and more and more and more and more good habits, train them in during Ramadan to be a better person and be a better believer and be a better Muslim. That's a great goal to have. And that helps train us in for the rest of the year in achieving our yearly goals and our lifetime goals. Literally the hypothalamus. And you can train that with appetite, with controlling, and that'll help better influence, because controlling food intake is one of the things. You take it, you either eat it or you don't, you either drink it or you don't. And that will help you then control your emotions a little better, because it's the same organ. You can't tell me it doesn't work that way, because it's the exact same organ. So literally, if you strengthen that organ with whatever you're good at, say you're good at hiding your emotions, well, then hopefully you now say it's the hypothalamus. So I'm going to train in controlling my appetite. Or maybe it's easier for you to train in controlling your appetite, but you still get emotional in front of other people. Well, remind yourself, it's the same brain organ that trains in appetite and food intake control. It's the same organ that trains in emotions. The blessings of Ramadan are so far reaching that, and like I read in the verses from the Quran, there are so many levels, mashallah, in the Quran. There are so many levels, and this talking about the hypothalamus is just one, and you can see how many layers are involved there. Look at these elite level athletes who train and work out every day. It's amazing that they still get like over emotional. It's because If you spend that much time controlling your food intake, you control your training, you involve in your sleep, I mean, your sleep-wake cycle, that's all hypothalamus. So now they should start telling themselves, I'm going to control. They say, oh, I'm going to let down over here. I'm going to go do this crazy stuff. I'm going to live a wild lifestyle. Don't shortcut. That's why I'm not a big fan. If I am trying to lose weight intentionally for an extended period of time for some reason to see if I can do it, there are no cheat days in my diet schedule. I'm not a big fan of cheat days because cheating implies everything by itself. The minute I say cheat, there's no good connotation there. It's literally the D word, discipline. I know it's a lot, but it's discipline. And if you can do it during Ramadan, every one day that you're successful is a great day. Any day you fall off, remember Allah's mercy is greater than his wrath. Ramadan is such a beautiful month to help make all of us better people, isn't it? If there are any questions, feel free to type them in and ask right now.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. McBride. Beautiful things. But also, Ramadan is not only for drinking and drink and eat. Like many things. But the main things is the tongue.
Exactly. Backbiting and gossiping.
Gossiping and many things. Now online, boasting and boast and read, and the key, a lot of people sharing what they're doing. That is disaster, brother, Dr. McBride. Plus Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people doing this stuff, that is not fasting. It's not fasting. Lying is not fasting. Cheating is not fasting. Backbiting is slandering is not. That everything, especially in the month of Ramadan, you have to watch your tongue. Of course, there is no drink, no eat, no sexual relationship, but also the most important thing, the tongue.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's I'm so glad you said that, because all I mentioned was emotion. It's so important, the discipline, the control of everything. And again, backbiting the tongue. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you used to teach us, there's got to be 50 million hadith, if I'm not exaggerating, about how the tongue is the main organ that's going to get you thrown in the hellfire, I think.
No, Rasulullah, beautiful. Hadith Rasul, kalima, a statement, take you to the Jannah, and one kalima, statement, book your hellfire. One
Exactly.
kalima, only statement. With anger, for example, with anger, a lot of people go to the masjid here. I'm not going to mention different masjid. Go to the masjid before iftar. People waiting to be on, and then insulting each other. Insulting into, oh no, you are this. Oh, then eat and tarawih and mashallah. And when I say, by the way, whoever doing this, your salah, your fasting is not valid. You have to do this again. Uprising against me.
All the time.
Yeah. My point, Jazakallah khair, beautiful tongue. Yes, we have emotion and this. The emotion, we have to watch my tongue, my cell phone.
Yeah.
Cell phone, watch. So boom. We have to watch that. Why? Everything here, the two angels writing, Ibrahim, he saw this. Scroll this. That good things, alhamdulillah. Bad things, left side. There is no way. And then, plus, Allah said, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانِ Surah Al-Qaf, number 16. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا, we create man. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانِ, we create mankind. وَنَعْلَمُ, we know. مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ, what is the thinking. وَنَحْنُ, we are. we are closer to وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We are closer to the when plus our life between the brink of the eye. Brink of the eye, alive or not life. In Ramadan, you have to behave and behave and behave. Train yourself. Train yourself.
Yeah.